Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mical Humphrey, and today I'll be speaking about the most exciting and the greatest artistic achievements of human history. So we'll be talking about the three most innovative artists of all of mankind: the Flaming Lips, Pink Floyd, and Frank Zappa. So to start off with, the Flaming Lips are the defining freak psychedelic experience of music. As you can see here, they're dressed up in rainbow costumes. That was for their version of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, where they recently did a remake of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So some background on the Flaming Lips: they started in the 1980s. The lead singer worked at Long John Silver's for 11 years as a fry cook while he supported his band before they ever made it big. And while he was working at Long John Silver's one day, a group of people came in with guns and they robbed the fast food place. And as he was lying on the ground and they were taking money out of the cash register in the vault, he was convinced that he was going to die. And so ever since then, his music has been filled with this deep-seated despair of one day dying. Also, in later albums, he had to make the albums coinciding with his father's death by cancer, which was a horrible, slow, and tragic experience. Chronicled in two albums: The Soft Bulletin from 1997 and also Zyreka, which is an album that uses 4 different CDs in the CD case, and it's supposed to be a social experience. So you have to have 4 people with 4 different CD players, and each of them puts 1 CD into each of the CD players, and you all have to hit the play button at the exact same time. The thing is that the album is about sort of an ingenious eureka of anarchy, and the songs are meant to go in and out of sync of each other. So every single time you play the album, it plays differently every time, because everybody always hits the play button differently, but also the tracks are purposefully out of sync. So it gives a very chaotic sound. Also, with the skull, on midnight of Halloween of 2009, the Flaming Lips released Seven Skies H3, which is a 24-hour-long song, which was the first song of that length ever. And they released it in these actual human skulls. 13 of them were sold. There's hard drives inside where the brains used to be, and they were on sale for $6,000 each, and they managed to sell all 13 of them. Now you can actually buy gummy skulls, so it's not real human skulls anymore. But the Flaming Lips are certainly, were listed in 2002 as the greatest act to see before you die for their extravagant live shows. So here's a 50-foot tall TV screen behind them that has the laser show during their live performance. Giant balloons everywhere, and then especially right here, the lead singer is dressed up as an alien love god. He's holding a fake baby that has giant tentacles coming out of his legs that encompass the entire audience, and the tentacles light up with lasers. So the entire audience is completely wrapped up together in these giant tentacles, and it's a very fun experience. They also have dancers in panda bear costumes and giant mushrooms and giant rainbows, and sometimes naked women, but usually they're wearing like schoolgirl outfits, and giant $1 million graffiti cannons. Sometimes the lead singer gets into a giant human-sized ball and runs on top of the audience, and also he has 3-foot tall laser hands that shoot giant lasers out of the fingers. So the Flaming Lips are incredibly extravagant in all their performances, and always show a great time with their innovation and experimentalism. This is Pink Floyd. This is their album cover for their 1969 album, Gooma Gooma. So with this picture, every single picture frame is a different arrangement of the people in the first picture. So they're all seated in different places in each picture, and it goes on into infinity. Pink Floyd, they're responsible for making The Dark Side of the Moon from 1972, which we all know is the defining progressive rock concept album, where the first side of The Dark Side of the Moon is entirely about death, and the second part is about greed and insanity. And all these themes coincide together to create epic chronicle of young adult disillusionment in a modern world. Also in 1978, they made an album called Animals, which is based off of George Orwell's Animal Farm, where social classes are defined as different animals: pigs, sheep, and dogs. And all throughout the album, they're talking about the political consequences of these animal groups working together in sort of a controlled society, always leaning towards fascism. And this is Pink Floyd performing in 1972 to an audience of ghosts in Colosseum in Pompeii, Rome. They actually made a movie called Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii in 1972. So they got to perform with all of this massive equipment, and they also went back to a studio in France to shoot the rest of the movie. And if you ever watch this movie, it has some great tracks. They also have some behind the scenes of things they were working on for The Dark Side of the Moon before they released the album. And a lot of great education on the band's background in this. And finally, the great defender of American freedom, Frank Zappa. In 1984, Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, bought a Prince album for her 11-year-old daughter called Purple Rain. And on one of the songs, the subject matter can very easily be confused with, it was probably about masturbation. So when Tipper Gore was playing the song for her 11-year-old daughter, she wasn't sure about rock music. She was into country and western, so she didn't know what Prince was about. So she was horrified to realize that the song was about masturbation. So Tipper brought together many wives of congressmen and overnight created the most powerful lobbying group in Washington, which was aimed at censoring rock music, putting labels on all the rock albums that have to do with drugs, alcohol, violence, and occult themes. So this brought a huge uproar from the rock community because it was rock music only that was being censored and not country and western music, which also had similar themes, but was favorited by the wives of the congressmen. So Frank Zappa was so respected as a musician that he actually testified before Congress along with other rock stars and managed to get that lobbying group disintegrated and rock music continued uncensored and free. This is one of Frank Zappa's most famous performances. It was in a theater in Italy, and this theater was only designed to hold 800 people, but people were sneaking into the theater, and there were 2,000 people in this theater designed for 800 people. The managers were trying to keep people out, so they put chains on the doors and locked all the exits, but people still managed to get in. During the third encore of the night, someone shot fireworks up into the ceiling of the theater, and this caused a fire, which at first was kind of small, and Frank Zappa was at the microphone, and he was like, okay, everybody stay calm, just exit the theater, everything's okay. Then the fire grew really big, and as it spread, the ceiling started to collapse. Fire got into the kitchen where there was a gas stove. There were explosions. People started freaking out, panicking. Frank Zappa and his band had to retreat down into the basement where they were trapped. One of the roadies took his fist and he punched a hole through the wall in the basement, and the band managed to escape out into the street. Another roadie, as he was following them, the gas oven exploded and he got blown out of the building. Surprisingly, no one died. In the audience that day was the band Deep Purple, and at the hotel room, the lead singer wrote down on a napkin the lyrics to Smoke on the Water. So that is part of the significant contributions of Frank Zappa. Any questions for me? All right, thank you.